A senior Victorian Labor minister today has been accused of lying and providing BS evidence to that parliamentary inquiry I mentioned, which probing the Commonwealth Games fiasco. Now, former Commonwealth Games legacy minister Harriet Shing says she was first told on June 22 that the Games were at risk. Now, that was more than a week before the lawyers were called in. But have a look at this exchange, fiery exchange I describe it as, that she had with my next guest, Liberal MP David Davis.
The idea that your secretary in your department would not tell you that the cancellation of the Games that you were managing, that you were one of the key ministers for, was about to be cancelled. It's just not credible. It's Mr. cloud Davis, cuckoo land stuff.
Mr. Davis, I want to be really careful that you don't verbal me here, because on the 22nd of June, I was advised that cancellation was under consideration.
Yeah.
There wasn't a decision taken to cancel the Games
all hunky-dory,
until the 17th of July.
You've got the lawyers brought in and you're not told, even though you're one of the two ministers that's responsible for the Games. It's nonsense. I don't believe you, and I'm putting on record I don't believe you.
David Davis joins us. That was, reasonably tense, but how can that minister sit there and try and play that line? It's just, as you said, David, incomprehensible that that's how it unfolded.
Well, at the committee I used some of the old-fashioned vernacular, but the truth of the matter is that nobody believes that the minister for 8 days had this period where her secretary knew, the secretary of DPC knew, the secretary of Treasury knew, the other minister knew, the Premier knew, a whole host of people knew, but they didn't tell the minister who's actually, the one responsible. Her and Jacinta Allen were responsible, and the lawyers are there. The lawyers are looking actively at options on how they cancel the Games. And, we forgot to tell you. No, I just don't believe it. And meanwhile, she's telling the Parliament several times that it's all fabulous. We're going to have the best Games in the world and, it's going to be the best Games in world history. Well, the Games were careering out of control. The costs were escalating, huge blowouts. The minister wouldn't use the word cost blowout. She's saying, there was escalation of costs. Well, the costs went from $2.6 billion to $6 or $7 billion. That's not, a bit of a minor overrun or something. This is a huge, incompetent fiasco that's occurred here, and tremendous damage to Victoria and tremendous damage to Australia internationally for the cancellation of these Games. If you couldn't put the Games on, if you didn't do the work, you shouldn't have bid for them. If you couldn't actually carry it off, you shouldn't have bid for them in the first place. And, we asked both the ministers that came today whether they'd read the business case. And it's clear the original business case, which was a pathetic document, neither of them had read it. They said they hadn't read it. I mean, it's just extraordinary.
How can you be a minister in a government in charge of the Commonwealth Games? You don't even read the business case.
I asked, did you get an incoming brief, when you came in as minister? Oh, yeah. Well, can we see that? They want to fight that, and then did you read the business case on which the whole thing had been based? No, said one minister, and then that's Sean Lean, and then the other one, Harriet Shing, gave a weasel word answer, which meant that she had not read the business case thoroughly. And you'd think you'd start with the business case that lays out the costs, lays out the structure, lays out the underpinnings of this. Well, it was to be a $2.6 billion outing, but it, later, according to Andrews and the documents they put out at the end, is in the region of $6 to $7 billion. Now, how do you get that? I mean, that's a huge chasm. We know through the period of February, March, April, and into May and June, the government was grappling with these cost blowouts, massive blowouts, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in different parts of the Games. And, the minister could not bring herself to properly engage with what was happening, could not bring herself to be honest and direct with the committee. I just, this is my experience at the committee, and my take of what occurred today is that you saw a minister who, in my view, was just incompetent, and this was just clearly beyond her.
Just finally, I mean, how would you describe the way that former Premier Daniel Andrews is treating with utter disrespect on this whole Commonwealth? He won't even appear before the committee. I mean, what's that say about the bloke?
No. Well, there's people can go on the website and see the letters themselves. The letters have been published on the website. They show that Martin Pakula, who was originally the minister, and the Premier, who are now ridden off into the sunset, they've said they won't attend. They've just said, no, I'm not coming. They've given what I believe is a cock and bull excuse, and that's my humble view. And you can also see some of the examples of lower house ministers that have attended and members that have attended upper house inquiries. They're also on the committee's website for the Victorian public to see. There's no reason they couldn't have come. They could have come and given a full accounting of themselves and explained what went wrong and what they got wrong. Accepted responsibility.
Yeah,
people would have had more respect.
I just find it absolutely
other ministers
disgraceful
around the countryside. Yeah, it is, and it's treating the people of Victoria with absolute contempt, in my humble view.
Correct, and it should be a stain on Daniel Andrews' reputation going forward. David Davis, really appreciate you joining us tonight.